Hello and welcome to the Minds on the Frontline podcast, brought to you by the Frontline Strong Together 5 program. FST5 provides streamlined access to behavioral and mental health services, as well as crisis resources for Michigan's Frontline 5 workers and their families. This includes all professional, part-time, and volunteer firefighters, EMS, law enforcement, corrections officers, and 911 dispatchers in Michigan and their immediate family members. FST5 was collaboratively created by first responders and mental health experts to provide 24/7 live support, effective resources, and cutting-edge services to prevent and alleviate PTSD, anxiety, depression, and other frontline work-related mental and behavioral health challenges. Need help now? If you are a frontline worker in Michigan or an immediate family member experiencing any crisis, work-related, substance abuse, depression, relationships, finances, or any other, reach out by calling 1-833-34-STRONG or go to fst5.org for more information. I'm Jeff Lassers, one of the hosts of the Minds on the Frontline podcast, and I'm a professional firefighter, paramedic, educator, and content creator. Minds on the Frontline is co-hosted by Mike Mattern, who is also a professional firefighter and paramedic. In addition, Mike is a peer support team member for his fire department and the Frontline Strong Together 5 program, as well as the chair of the Michigan Professional Firefighters Union Behavioral Health Committee and a board member of the Michigan Crisis Response Association. Mike has training and experience with frontline worker mental and behavioral health. On the other hand, I do not. My role is to produce the show, whereas Mike is our resident subject matter expert. Together we hope to inform, educate, and entertain frontline workers, their families, and the public regarding the realities of frontline work-related mental and behavioral health challenges. Today we welcome Aileen Pettinger to the show. Aileen retired as a captain from the Saginaw Fire Department and now serves as the Region 2 Training Chief for the Michigan Bureau of Fire Services. In addition, Aileen is an active peer support team member with the Mid-Michigan Peer Support Team, which is a part of a growing network of peer support teams collaborating directly with the FST5 program. We are also joined by Manisha Leary, who is the FST5 Program Manager and a therapist with a focus on trauma. In the life of a frontline worker, encounters with critical emergencies are a daily reality. These events are rare but carry immense risk, often leaving a lasting impact on the mental and behavioral health of the survivor. Imagine being a firefighter trapped inside a structure fire, or a police officer in a high-stakes confrontation, or an EMS provider attacked by a patient. Aileen is fortunate to survive two separate, potentially life-threatening events, and she's here to talk about what it was like to prepare for and overcome the weight of those incidents. In addition, Aileen will shed light on a pivotal transition for frontline workers: retirement. This significant life change, while a mark of successful service, comes with its own set of stresses and adjustments. Drawing from her own experience as a successful retiree, Aileen offers guidance to peers on navigating this transition gracefully, ensuring that the next chapter, post-service, is as fulfilling as the career that preceded it. This was a great episode, and we really enjoyed having Aileen and Manisha on the show. Please check us out on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook, and make sure to like and subscribe to all Minds on the Frontline podcast social media channels. Thank you, and enjoy the show. Good morning, everybody. How are you?
What's up, bro?
Good morning.
What's going on?
Well, welcome back to the show, Manisha. We always love having you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Mikey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good.
All right.
I don't see you enough without headphones on. One of these days, you know.
We talk enough on the phone, so
That's true.
yeah.
That's true. And now we got somebody new today. We have a retired firefighter.
Oh,
Yes.
I'm not retired, but I look forward to the day that I will be retired. That's
Same
kind
here.
of the goal
Same
of
here.
getting the job is retirement. And Aileen is a successful retiree, meaning that she's healthy, she's doing what she wants to do, not what she has to do.
Right.
So give us your background. What did you do? What do you do? All those things.
So I worked for the Saginaw Fire Department for 25 years.
Right
I
on.
retired as a captain. And while I was there, I was our secretary of our MPFFU local in Saginaw. And then I also was Northern trustee of the MPFFU and district vice president as well for the MPFFU, covering the 3rd and 1st district.
Right on. So you spent a lot of your fire career in operations. You were a suppression captain.
Yes.
You weren't some white shirt in the office.
No.
That's cool. And then you were also very active with our state union, which is a
Yes.
part of the IAFF. Awesome.
Yes.
Now, were you doing any peer support while you were on the line there?
Yes, I also did peer support. I did that towards the end of my career because I recognized how important to help our firefighters on the line deal with basically everything we carry in our backpack all the time, all the issues.
So now that you're retired, what are you doing?
Now I work for the state of Michigan and the Bureau of Fire Services Firefighter Training Division. So I'm a Region 2 training chief. I cover the lower half of Michigan, and I do certification firefighter training. So most of the time I can work from home, but I also travel around the state, do stuff like this. Also give certification exams and do a lot of training.
Do you also involved in peer support now in your retirement stage?
Yes.
You're still in the game
Yep,
a little bit?
I stayed in our team in mid-Michigan. We've gone all the way up to Traverse City, Alpena, down over to Port Huron. Wherever people need help, firefighters, EMS, even cops, we help.
So Manisha, give everybody a little bit of background on the fact that all these peer support teams, like the one that Eileen's on, exist throughout the state of Michigan, and how the FST5 supports those groups.
Oh, thanks. Yes, absolutely. So FST5 has a network of peer support teams that you can find on our website. These are teams that have agreed to be listed there to respond to mutual aid. So if there's any kind of other team or any kind of department that may need a first responder peer support team, they can go there and find their closest or their local team, or a team that's willing to travel. Just like Aileen was talking about, her team goes all over. She's a part of the Mid-Michigan team, and they travel up pretty much all over the Lower Peninsula, sometimes going upstate, right? Going up to the UP. So we have quite a few teams that are like that. And our goal, again, is just to make sure that we're providing support. So there's a lot of teams or a lot of first responders who don't want to necessarily reach out to people who aren't a part of what they do, a part of their culture. And so that's what peer support comes in. And you guys have been doing an amazing job at it. Like, I can't even talk about how amazing your peer support teams are and how much you guys do for the state of Michigan. And as SFT5, we are so happy to be a part of that.
So in a lot of ways, FST5 is serving as a hub that offers information, support, or whatever they need for all these spokes out there. And it feels like, Mike, there's a parity between the training of all these different teams so they can interact together. And, you know, there's harmony that way. There's more of a synergistic approach when everybody's on the same page rather than we're all doing the same thing, quote unquote, by title. No, by operation, it seems.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that we're trying to do to standardize the training in the state amongst teams is just for that. So I know I've worked with Eileen's team a couple times, and it's because we all have the same training, even though we come from different parts of the state, we were able to get together, do what we needed to do. And everybody was on the same page on how things were supposed to work. And that was mainly because we were all kind of trained the same way. So it helps with that plug and play type thing where if we have a larger incident, you know, we can call out 3 or 4 different teams and all the teams can work together and we're all reading off the same sheet of music. So it's to standardize everything makes the peer support thing a lot easier to do because you can call a team from the UP, you can call a team from Alpena, and you can call a team from Dearborn, put us all in the same room together, and we're doing the same thing without really having to come up with a game plan. And those resources all kind of go through Frontline Strong as well. You know, we all have our independent teams and we do our own thing. But, you know, if somebody calls Frontline and says, hey, I need 2 teams here for this, this, or this, you know, you can get 2 teams. You could feasibly show up with Eileen's team and our team. And, you know, we've done things together. People never knew that we had never worked together. Right. At the end of it, we told them, hey, this is the first time we've ever worked together. And the people had no idea.
They were shocked. Yeah.
They were absolutely shocked that we had never, ever done anything together.
And these teams are serving kind of like 2 primary purposes. Peer support in the sense of you're just supporting peers based on anything they're going through, and SISM, which is at acute, we just had a really bad thing happen. We got to get after this and get ahead of it in the moment. So you're experiencing that same thing where you're probably getting more calls for service, if you will, for peer support rather than SISM.
Yeah, both. We've had quite the range of calls. We've had firefighter suicide. We've had tornadoes that people have had to deal with, car accidents. I mean, quite the variety. So
you're seeing with such a big area that you guys cover in that response, you know, mid-Michigan is pretty rural, right? In the sense of you compare it to Southeast Michigan per capita, that there's just not nearly as many people. So the resource volume is certainly going to be commensurate with the amount of people. So you got to have each other's backs out there at further distances, kind of helps you out there. So what I'm getting at here is most of the time we talk about peer support being this ongoing thing. We kind of look out for each other. And SISM really gets kicked in when we have an emergency situation. These emergency situations aren't always mass shootings.
Right.
Sometimes the actual provider, the first responder, is the one who's having the emergency. Firefighter down having a heart attack or goes through a floor. A cop under duress being attacked. EMT in the back of an ambulance with a person that's attacking them. A corrections officer dealing with Lord knows what in a facility with people that may or may not want to hurt them. The point being is those types of incidents can leave a lasting impression on the person if they survive it. So can you please describe the emergencies that you encountered as a firefighter and how it impacted you?
25 years on the job, right? We saw a lot of fire in Saginaw. I saw a lot. My first year, we had 400 structure fires. So wow. See a lot of fire. We're a mini Detroit or Flint.
Yeah.
Okay. So you get kind of complacent, which you never should be. And I was trained in that fire ground survival through the IAFF. And like I said, I really think it saved us. So my first Mayday that we had, which is crazy. I'm saying my first Mayday, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But it was a residential one, typical bread and butter fire, basement fire. The first floor had burned away. And my battalion chief was like, hey, watch out for that. Floor is burned through. No problem. We went around it and put the fire out, or so we thought. We went and changed our tanks, came back in to do overhaul on the second floor, and didn't realize that the crew in the basement had their radios on a different channel, and the fire flared up. And then the outside crews turned the fan on because they cleared it with everyone, they thought, and sent the fire right up to us. Luckily, we had our packs on because think about it. Sometimes during overhaul, you just go up. Typical fire, it's completely clear. And we had a hose line, but the line we had used from another crew. It wasn't long enough. So we ended up, and luckily this class, I had seen another incident in Iowa where people died because they didn't have enough like water to put it out. It was just like a fireball. Yeah. And that flashed in my head. So I did something as an officer that most people would never do. I was like, drop the line, we're going up. Because the guy that my firefighter that was hitting it, it was like a sprinkler. It wasn't doing anything. And that heat was unbearable. So we ran up, shut the doors. Luckily, there were doors at the bottom of the stairs, and we ran up to the attic, and it was a hoarder house. And my engineer bailed out the window, trained by fire ground survival, was hanging, and they threw a ladder up, and he slid down the ladder and got out. And me and my back end guy were stuck up there in this hoarding, and there was a hole in the floor, a vent hole, and the fire was coming up through the vent hole. And I got stuck in the hole, and my coat rode up, and I burned some of my back. And it's not a pleasant feeling, thinking like, what happened, and you're calling a Mayday. And luckily, the other crews got to us, and they scrambled, put their packs on, and we're so short-handed. We had 8 people on scene to do all that.
Wow. And how big is the square foot of the structure?
Oh, this was probably about a 3,000 square foot. It was a huge house.
So you're not just some little bungalow.
No, this one,
you got 4 sides.
Saginaw's got like a lot of, it used to be a lumber baron town.
Yeah.
Like a lot of lumber. And so
these old,
huge,
colonial
colonial.
Very solid. Very solid. So you do get complacent. And I'll be the first to admit it. And so literally a couple days later, we went to the IAFF Redmond conference, and our instructors that taught us that stuff were there. And I went up to them. I said, you guys saved our asses. And I appreciate it. Sorry about the swearing. And
let it go.
I appreciate it.
Let it go.
It's allowed.
This stuff worked. We learned how to bail out. The Mayday, conserving our air, all of it, and just do what you can. And
so the preparation training worked.
Oh, yeah. Twice.
So you were prepared because you trained on it. You thought about it. These are the things that can hurt me. We got to figure this out before it actually happens.
Yes.
Did it prepare you for the mental feelings after the survival?
So it's crazy because anytime I think any of us have stress, you just have this huge adrenaline dump. Like literally, I didn't even realize it. When I came outside, I was shaking so much. And then I was like, I got to go back in. I got to go change my tank, put the fire out. And they're like, you're going to the hospital. You're burned. You're going to the hospital. Are you crazy? And then in the ambulance, my friends that are medics were like trying to sit me down. And I was like, God, my back hurts. And they're like, you're freaking burned. I'm like, oh, okay. And let me go back in. Let me go do my job. You know, it's just the mental adrenaline. But then I realized quickly some of the guys at work, I think they were kind of like standoffish, the other crews, because they didn't want it to happen to them. Like, this doesn't happen to us, right? And it was kind of strange.
They were avoiding the conversation to talk about because they didn't want to picture
Our
themselves.
crew, the ones that were in it, didn't.
Yeah.
But
it wasn't like you were bad luck. Like, don't get too close to
but they were kind of like, this doesn't happen to anyone. How could this have happened, right? That's the way I interpreted it. But
and if we don't talk about it, I don't have to address it.
Yeah.
It didn't happen.
Yeah.
To be fair, I'm not trying to say our department did do a debriefing, like the next round or whatever. That's fine. But I realized, like, there's not that many people that go through this that you can talk to about it.
Right.
You know, like, and the nightmares after it. So I actually reached out to the Mayday Project. They were actually at that Redmond conference as well.
Right.
And they encouraged us to talk about it and put it on the Near Miss website, and then also just to talk about it with other people. But I mean, I even reached out to the MPFFU and said, maybe we need like a support group for people down the road, because there are near misses that people don't talk about.
I think you're right with the near misses. I mean, I think all of us have had something where we had that moment of, am I making it through this? And you're right. In 25 years, you're going to encounter that more than once in your life. And we don't necessarily talk about it because we made it through it.
Right.
You know, I had a tire blow up on a car when I was standing next to it. And if you ever had that happen, you think the whole car's blowing up.
Yeah.
And I took a second and I closed my eyes and I'm like, okay, I'm still here. I'm still okay.
I know.
Or early on in my career, I was crawling around an attic and missed where I should have been. And one of my legs went through and I caught myself on the rafters.
Did the same. Yeah.
So it's one of those things where it scares the ever living shit out of you, but you go, okay, holy shit, I made it through. It's okay. But nobody ever wants to talk about it because it's the embarrassment of it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's where I think it goes into, you know, we kind of marry it with mental health a little bit because everybody's embarrassed to talk about mental health, but you're also embarrassed to talk about those things because we don't make those mistakes. You know, I don't want to get made fun of because I went off the rafters and my leg went through the floor and two guys had to drag me back in. You know,
I'm too good to be in that situation.
I'm embarrassed.
I'm not the guy who gets saved.
Embarrassed.
Yes.
And some of it, I think we get complacent. We think we're invincible. Like, we've survived so many fires.
Yes.
This isn't going to happen. This doesn't happen to us.
Yes.
We always have a positive outcome. This doesn't happen here. It's a small department or even a larger department, but we've had so many, it's never happened. And when it does, it shakes you to the core.
Absolutely. And I think that, you know, we talk about the old school mentality of, you know, suck it up with mental health, that kind of stuff. The same thing follows that Mayday call. There is a stigma attached, at least with the old school guys, about calling a Mayday. Like, you don't call a Mayday unless you absolutely need it, like, type deal.
Basically, when it's too late.
Basically, yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah, I'm
too late.
gonna unscrew myself before I call a Mayday. And if you look at all the NIOSH reports, you look at all the firefighter deaths, one of the biggest things that they find is they called it too late. They tried to unscrew themselves and they called it too late. And so that's where I think we really need to, like you said, we need to start talking about them afterwards. I never realized.
Well, not even afterwards. I think the thing here is she survived because of her training before the event.
Yes.
And what I want to add to that training is the fact that, okay, when you go home, it's going to be tough.
Yeah. Well, but here's a positive thing, because I always like to do the positive spin, right? So the next round, I came back and we caught a structure fire that night and person trapped. Legit. Like, the cops are like, we know he's in this room. He's trapped. He's at the window. And honestly, my engineer, it was our same crew working again, or two of us were still working that night. And I felt like he was driving slower. And he told me later he dreaded going to another fire after this. I mean, think about it. You're getting thrown right back into it. And it was cool because there were three of us. We pulled this guy out. So I felt like, you're not going to take me to fire. You're not, and you know what I mean? Like, I was like, I'm going to take this by the horn, or other words, and
Yeah.
I'm going to conquer my fear. And I didn't have any fear. I just had the mission, go get the guy, get him out. And he survived, and his family made us a Mexican dinner. It was good.
That's awesome.
So,
good job.
Were they Mexican or were they like Polish people? That'd be weird.
Hispanic. I don't know, but their food was amazing.
Oh, it'd just be funny if just some random
Other
ethnic
I'm
group.
Saying they're
No,
good
just be
people.
fine. No,
Just some random Taco
who
Tuesday.
doesn't love Mexican food? I'm just saying. I got a Polish neighbor who makes Italian food. It's pretty good. It's just funny that it's.
Gotcha.
But it was cool that it was a positive outcome after a scary one the week before. You know.
Right.
So as an outsider, my question is this: did you think it was better to go right back in, or
Yes.
would you? Yeah.
100%. I was like ready to let's go, let's do this. This is our job, right? I wasn't nervous. And it's funny, I wasn't nervous at all about it. But
Is that what you'd recommend, Manisha, to somebody you were seeing that it experienced this?
So it's kind of twofold, right? Because I can't speak from the actual perspective of being a firefighter or even a first responder, but I can speak from kind of a traumatic space, and we don't often know that we're triggered by something until we're re-engaged in that kind of same situation. So just, you mentioned your driver, and so I think the ability to talk about it and feel comfortable enough to talk about it as the incident happens in the days afterwards will help break down some of that when you get thrown back into, the next call or where, you have to go next. Because again, you don't know what the trigger is going to be. So, your driver might have been fine and not had any kind of like delays or reactions into that, but maybe 2 or 3 years later he would. And it would be because of his thoughts from that fire. So kind of just it's our overall goal is just kind of reducing the stigma. But I mean, for departments directly, kind of having a space or the reminder that we're here for those one-offs. We're here for those things that never happen, may never happen to departments, but just like you were saying, you guys had done so good. You guys got complacent and this is good, but your jobs are here for the one-offs. So, and you want to make it through all of the one-offs. You want to be able to get good at that too. So I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. I just think we don't ever know when our triggers are going to hit. So it's important to kind of get it off.
It's probably like person to person too. Like your life experiences may have put you in a situation where you felt empowered to do it again. Mm-hmm. Who knows what that other person was going through that day?
Yeah. But you guys are beasts though, because you guys got the guy out, you saved him. And that's the best case. Yeah, that's awesome.
It felt great.
So was that your only big emergency that left an impression on you? And did that solve it? Just kind of going back in, or did some lingering things that you think you could have addressed earlier?
So I feel sometimes like I was a cat with 9 lives on the job because a couple years later, we had one of those crazy, huge thunderstorms with tons of down lines and all that, right?
Yeah.
Well, and actually the crews had already had 3 fires that day, 3 house fires due to down lines, right?
Wow.
So they were nailed, and it was one of those 95-degree days. So
Always.
I get called in on overtime to help. There's trees down everywhere. There's lines down. And we got called to a commercial building. It's probably only 4,000 square feet. Very small, 5,000 square feet. But smoke in the building. We go check it out. It's clear. We had the TIC, the thermal imaging camera. We checked everything. We told the guy, we turned off the power box and told him, don't turn on the fuse box until consumers gets here. What does he do as soon as we leave?
Turns it on.
It's all x-rays that he has stored in barrels in the x-ray fluid or whatever. And so he doesn't want those to be damaged, right? So we go on a bunch more down lines, and all of a sudden we hear structure fire, commercial building. We look up in the sky, and it's pure black smoke. And we're the closest crew. We pull on scene. We give the report. And then we knew the layout, right? So there was another crew that came, and we went into the building, 2 separate areas. And all of a sudden, I hear the air horn for evacuate. And 911 gets over the air and says, there's a mayday, but it was muffled. We couldn't hear it. Yeah. The other crew, their driver got separated from officer and firefighter. So he's in there by himself on the other side of the building. So he ended up coming to us. We found him. And then they're calling the evacuation, and we're stuck in this commercial building, and there's barrels floor to ceiling, and it's like a maze in there. And I had the line and pushing it forward, and my firefighter was pushing barrels, and we got disoriented. And then we followed the line back, and we got out. But the guy came to us, and then all of our air alarms went off. We're running out of air, and it's starting to suck a little bit. And I'm like, mayday, mayday, mayday. I feel like, but this time I feel completely calm because I feel like we can see the way out. We know the layout, but
it jump off anything. You don't.
It was unnerving. There's no windows in this building.
Yeah.
It's all brick, concrete, and so black you can't see your hand in front of your face. And then you do get that pucker factor when you're running out of air, right?
Yeah.
Oh.
And so, and the air alarm, the evacuation alarm had gone off, and luckily we found a firefighter. She found the wall, and we used our line because the line was a big mess. You're in this building, and there's barrels everywhere, floor to ceiling. And she found the wall, and we got out, and they were like pulling us by the time we get to the door to get out. So it was weird. That one, I didn't feel as nervous as I did with the residential, I think, just because I was like, I've been through this before.
Well, you weren't on fire at any point in this one.
No, and I wasn't up in an attic, and I don't know. I knew the crews were so close, but I did recognize it can very easily get trapped in here with these barrels floor to ceiling, and commercial buildings are different.
So at that point, is that triggering to, again, you can prepare, you do the Mayday, you stayed calm, you conserved your air, you found your line, you got your way out. Training. Were you prepared mentally for all of that?
I felt more prepared for this one.
Because you've been on fire before.
But I did tell our officers, at that time I was a captain, I said, we need more training in commercial buildings. We treat every commercial building like a residential building.
Sure.
And this is ridiculous. And then that one, all of us, it was so hot, we're so shorthanded, we just changed our air battles and kept doing overall. Like nothing happened.
Right. Because in all reality, nothing did happen.
Well,
nobody's hurt.
Yeah, but the guy that got lost, he should have probably been.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
but that's
our mentality. We have a job to do.
Right.
We even had mutual aid, and the officers on scene turned them away. We're good. We got this because we're always good, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Your first thought was, man, we need more training. And I'm like, yeah, but not just on the commercial fire.
Yeah.
like when to recognize, when to call it, timeout. We do an after action review and maybe a debriefing.
Yeah.
Even if it seems silly, maybe we do it anyway.
That day, normally I would have pushed for a debriefing, but everybody was so exhausted, like literally.
Oh, yeah.
But we did do a a after action review. We did do that.
But it's always operational, and it should be done. And I'm not saying we shouldn't do that.
Yes.
We should keep on it on the training objectives. But at the end of the day, we got to add one.
Behavioral health.
Everybody all right?
And that's one I give Aileen a lot of credit for. I went up to Saginaw and did the suicide RIT training, and I went out, her and Justin Fox up there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and she had brought this up to me as she goes, well, what have you guys ever thought about talking about Maydays and stuff like that? And it never even crossed my radar until talking to her that this is one that we need to, if it happens, we need to go talk to you.
Yeah.
We're not asking you, we're going to come have a chat, because it is one of those life-threatening things when, we all kind of look at it as, okay, we made it out. It's okay. We learned from it.
Yeah, 10 fingers, 10 toes. I'm good.
Yeah. But in all reality, we got to realize that those are some of those situations that are going to stick with you for a while.
Right.
It was a almost life-altering situation.
Sure. And it could cause intrusive thoughts of what if.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. So a career where you work, it takes its toll on you, right? Like many other places, we have police officers, EMS, law enforcement, corrections, dispatchers. All these people undergo a big dose of stress for an entire career. Mm-hmm. So I want to transition now. You're a successful retiree, like we said, right? But like when we picture retirees in the classic sense, they're old people in Florida or Arizona or New Mexico, wherever you go to congregate with all your other elderly retirees. Right. But in first responder, it's a physical job. We can't work into our 60s very easily, right? So we tend to get out in our early 50s, mid 50s. Sometimes you got out early because you got in early. Mm-hmm. So I'm entering the last 10 years of my career. Mike's lucky enough to be, I think, less than that. Closer to 5, maybe.
No, 10 is a good one.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
8 to 10 years. 8 to 10 years.
Fair enough. We're in our last 10 years. There's a lot of people like us.
Right.
What do we do? Like, what do we need to be prepared for? We've talked in previous episodes about not, capturing the identity of a first responder job that I occupy. I'm just Jeff. He's just Mike, that we happen to do that other gig.
Right.
But some people aren't as successful as separating the two.
Right.
So, like, what other things do I need to do to be a successful retiree, physically, mentally, emotionally?
Teach us.
Yes.
Yeah, you're doing it.
So,
I'm going to somebody actually doing the job.
And I wish someone would have done it for me. And I really feel like we need to reach out either as a union or as firefighters to fellow retirees and offer support. Because no one really, I had a few people warn me, but I was not prepared. And I thought I was, because I had the firefighter union that I was so involved with. But all of a sudden I stopped working in suppression. I went straight from suppression to a 40-hour job, literally over the weekend.
Right.
And I went from a union job that I absolutely just adored it. I loved it and breathed it, lived it, breathed it. And then I couldn't do it anymore because I'm in management now. Oof.
Whoa.
Right? Yeah. And I went to a 40-hour job from a 54-hour work week. How do people get shit done? Right?
I don't know how you work every single day.
Right?
The grocery store after work at like 5 o'clock.
Oh, not even close.
But here's the thing.
You got to go at like 11 o'clock at night.
Right? Here's the thing that nobody talks about. I really went through a bit of an identity crisis, because think about it. Your family, when they introduce you to people, oh, this is Jeff, or this is Mike, the firefighter,
Yeah.
And I wasn't Aileen, the firefighter anymore. I wasn't going in and getting that adrenaline rush and helping people. I mean, yeah, sure. I help people on the phone and get their certifications and stuff.
Thank you very much.
Right?
Yeah.
So, but in order to help myself with that, I made sure I stayed busy helping firefighters, but then also I'm lucky enough to be still involved with peer support, and that's still helping people. And then, of course, because I could never be busy enough, I was a campaign manager for my friend's judicial campaign. So you got to stay busy. You got to make sure that you still have a purpose as a human being. You still have your identity. It just changes.
So you don't have to leave whatever first responder community you're a part of, even though your role changes.
Yeah. But some people want to, and that's okay too, but just be forewarned. I have a lot, I'm sure you guys do too. A lot of friends really go through that identity crisis and then end up on a bar stool. Right?
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that once in a while, right? I do that too. But I'm saying make sure you're prepared, because you do go through that identity crisis, and now what? And I'm not talking financially. I'm talking mentally and physically.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, obviously set up yourself so you can go do cool stuff.
Yeah.
But when you have the time, let's say you got all the stuff, you got the time now, and then some people are like, I don't know what to do. Like, they did all the right things.
Right.
They got cash, they got time.
And then
they
you
got
need
family.
to be ready
now
too,
what?
because think about it. Dysfunctional as we may be, the fire department is your second family. And the union may be your second and third family, right? Yeah. And then all of a sudden that's gone. Like for me, I went from working and talking around the kitchen table every day to literally the next week working home alone. There's my dog.
Big change.
You don't realize
Big change.
what you get
And
from
so
that.
you have to find different ways to make, have a group of friends in your family and just adapt, but just be forewarned. I'm not trying to say it's a bad thing. It's a good thing. It's just a change, and you adapt and overcome. That's what we do as firefighters.
You mentioned the identity crisis. So who are you outside of fire?
I am a go-getter.
Yes.
Like my kids telling me I'm an adrenaline junkie, type A. I recognize, and I think you guys will see this already have. We have so many friends that when they retire, they die of cancer, right?
Yeah.
And literally since June, I've had 4 friends die of cancer that I worked with, and then 2 more diagnosed. So for me, I recognize family is so important, and travel. And so I've done a ton of stuff with my kids. So I'm blessed with that, with retirement. I went on an Alaskan cruise with my family
Awesome.
and life is too short. Grab it, do it now. Even you in the middle of your career. Do it now.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Cherish time with your kids.
Well, I got a 2 and a 5-year-old, so they're taking up all my time to
sleep while you
not.
can. Get your sleep.
And that's a big thing that I've like personally for me. But when I was early on in the job, it was all about the job. Like it was all if I was off work, and I was always thinking,
what'd you miss?
What did I miss? What you know? The big change that I've noticed is since having kids is you once you leave work, be enthralled by them. You know what I mean?
There you go.
And that's been a big change for me, at least, is leaving the job at 8 a.m. And I think that down the road, I think I'll still have the, like you're talking about, I don't think any of us are never going to have that identity thing, because for 25, 30 years, you're right. That's how you're identified. You go to a party. Hey, do you know this guy's a fireman?
Yeah,
it's like, I'm a lot more. I'm a lot more, but that is my job.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, the people at home don't care that you were a firefighter.
Right.
What they care about is how much time you spent with them, how many memories you made. You know, they're not, they just know, I'm sure your kids are the same way, and yours will probably be the same way. They just know that's what dad does for his job. But they more care about who's mom at home, who's dad at home, how much time we hang out with them. So I think for me, at least, that's one way that I've been trying to do it, to where when it comes time, that's it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The job's a job. 8 a.m., I'm gone. More importantly, I'm dad. I'm Mike.
That's the most important job.
It is. It's the greatest job. It's the toughest job some days you'll ever have.
So what do you have to say to those retirees that don't have kids?
They need to find their purpose.
I was going to say, go find kids.
Yeah, right? Or a spouse. No, I'm just kidding. But no, find something that will help them get through the transition, because it is tough. I was shocked. I thought, I have it all set. I've got a great job with the state. I've got, time with my kids. Yeah. But it is a huge, I'm just warning you, it's a huge transition, and you just adapt and overcome, and that's what we do.
And that's why I appreciate, like, having you talk about it, and some of, we've had a couple other guys talk about it, is passing on that knowledge, because you said it right there. Nobody ever passed it on to you, and it was just kind of a, hey, good luck.
Yeah.
I feel like it's always been financial advice.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah.
They always tell you what to save for. Well, did you pay your house off before you retire? And then you got to have this in this account and that there, and then you're good. I'm like, okay, cool. But what about the part where we smile? Like, I don't see you doing that part, and I don't feel like it's on the agenda to plan for in a lot of these situations. And I feel like the people from your generation that retired when you did, the very end, it became a thing to like, well, what about like all the other stuff? It was like kind of coming to the surface. Yeah. And then, now Mike in our generation is really trying to lift it up a little bit. We came in a little bit harsh, and hopefully the next one really carries this. And we have a more preparation, not only in the training, to say, hey, you got to be prepared for these big incidents. Bad guys are going to shoot at cops. EMTs are going to get attacked. Firefighters are going to go through holes.
Yeah.
So on top of that, we got to take care of each other after the call.
Absolutely. And I think that's going to help in retirement as well, because it's the other thing. A lot of retirees, when they come talk to us, they go, well, do these other retirees have all these calls that keep popping up that I haven't thought about in 20 years? And I'm like,
every one of them.
Every single one of them. You know why? Because they were never talked about for 20 years. So you put them up on that shelf, and now all of a sudden you've got all this time on your hands. They're all popping off now. Yeah. So, and they think like they're the only ones, and it's like, what do you think's going to happen? But by doing the peer support, by doing the SISM stuff, by doing all that stuff, hopefully we're starting to get that to where less retirees are going to be experiencing those things. We can't.
They dealt with it when they had to.
Yes, they dealt with it at the time. They dealt with it when they had to, and they didn't just stuff it down and wait for another day for it to come up. Because guarantee that day is coming.
And just to piggyback off what Mike is saying, it's not that they're going to go away. Like, we're not magically saying that the events that happened to you during this 25 or 30-year career are going to magically go away. You're just going to have tools to be able to deal with it. You'll know what some triggers are. You'll know how to be able to deal with it when it's just you alone with your thoughts. So, I think that's important to say, because I think a lot of first responders and a lot of people in general, because we're human, we just want someone to snap our fingers and everything just goes away, like the whole Thanos effect. But that's not really how it works. That's really not how mental health works and behavioral health works. It took you guys, however long your career was, to become amazing at what you do. Same thing with mental health. You have to work at it every single day. You have to work at it like this is important to you and you want to do the best of it. And more than anything, for the first responders who are parents, you guys are so much better when you're mentally stable for your children. Like so much better in that space. So I know you guys like to be like, yes, I am, I'm a firefighter, I'm a police officer. I am that. That's my identity. But you guys are a lot more. You guys are like people, and you can't give all of yourself to one single thing without burning out.
Yeah.
Truth.
Absolutely.
Great closing words.
Yeah.
Thanks.
No problem.
Well done.
Thanks for coming on, Aileen.
No problem. Anytime.
Thank you. It was awesome. Good job.
Thank you to Aileen and Manisha for joining us on the Minds on the Frontline podcast. We hope everyone enjoyed the episode. We have more great content coming out soon. Please check us out on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook, and make sure to like and subscribe to all Minds on the Frontline podcast social media channels. Thank you for listening, and have a great day.